The 2022 NBA draft was actually pretty exciting. Welcome back, YouTube, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2022 draft, NBA draft that just happened like a few minutes ago. It's actually happening right now as of me recording this. Pretty much I started recording this around the time that the second round is about to start. So pretty much I'm going to mostly be covering the first round throughout this entire video. And other than Jaden Hardy not being picked yet, I don't really have a reason to keep watching this draft unless for some reason I hope he gets drafted while I'm recording this video. I also really do want to preface this first before we even really get started into me talking about this draft. I'm by no means a draft expert, or at least a college basketball / G League / overseas ball expert. Yes, I do watch some of it, but I'm not like a guy that religiously follows it. I mostly follow the NBA, and usually I follow March Madness, and I'll look at the G League when guys who are expected to be drafted kind of take that route instead of going to college. And overseas, I usually just hear about the overseas guys, usually through a lot of other basketball YouTubers, so that way I can actually, get my fix, or at least get a little bit of knowledge on who's going to be coming up in this draft. That's actually how I found out about Luka and how I've been rooting for Luka 2 years before he even got drafted, but that's completely besides the point. So I could say that I'm kind of decent when it comes to learning about who these guys are and kind of what they do and their player comparisons and stuff like that, but I'm by no means an expert. Obviously, if you guys, or if I say anything wrong, you guys can obviously correct me in the comment section down below. Don't try to be kind of like an a-hole about it. Just, people don't really know these things. There are a lot of people out there that watch the NBA but don't watch like college hoops as much, or even watch like, G League or just other things. So if you guys want to comment about anything down below, please just make it a conversation and not like, you kind of like being mean or whatever. Anyways, as the draft kind of went, the first 3 picks kind of went in the order that I expected them to. Pretty much we had Paolo Banchero going first to the Magic, Chet Holmgren going second to the OKC Thunder, and Jabari Smith Jr. pretty much going third to the Houston Rockets. There wasn't really anything there that really surprised me. I knew that those guys were going to be the top 3 prospects, and they were pretty much going to be picked either 1, 2, or 3. It wouldn't have made me mad if the order was kind of switched up, because I mean, they could have gone in any order, but it just so happens that was actually the way that I projected them to go. Now, the 4th pick being Keegan Murray to the Kings was actually what kind of threw me off, because there was so much speculation about Jaden Ivey being the 4th pick, and I actually do think that if the Pistons or if someone else did have the 4th pick, he most likely would have been picked 4th. But because of the fact that he kind of made it clear he didn't want to be in Sacramento, obviously Sacramento didn't draft him. But at the same time, I felt like it would have been such a Sacramento move if they did end up drafting him when he didn't even want to be there in the first place. And the thing is, I feel like Sacramento has drafted so many guards within the past few drafts. They've had De'Aaron Fox. They had Tyrese Halliburton, who they shipped away, who wanted to actually be in Sacramento. And then last year, they drafted Davion Mitchell. And the Davion Mitchell pick, I can't even lie to you, was what upset me so much, because they had Fox, they had Halliburton, and then they drafted Davion Mitchell. Mind you, they did end up dumping Tyrese for Sabonis and keeping De'Aaron and Davion, but I mean, I'm not the Kings, and I will argue for it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Kings fans will argue that they wanted to keep Tyrese. But anyways, this is not about that whole trade. Keegan Murray being in Sacramento actually really helps, because right now they don't really have any wings. They haven't drafted any wings. I mean, they drafted Marvin Bagley, and I mean, Marvin Bagley's now in Detroit, and I mean, they drafted Davion Mitchell, so obviously they haven't had any sort of wing depth. I mean, they do have Harrison Barnes, but Harrison Barnes is getting old, so I think drafting a guy like Keegan Murray who can come in, who can score, who can defend is going to be really good for Sacramento. He's a guy that has a really high IQ, and he's a guy that can actually fill up the stat sheet and kind of, show his impact that way rather than just doing one sort of thing. Jaden Ivey to the Pistons was actually really nice, and I actually really liked it because, I mean, I know that Detroit has literally drafted 3 guards in a row. They drafted Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, and now they drafted Jaden Ivey. But I mean, I feel like Jaden Ivey might, or probably not even might, depending on how he performed in Summer League, is probably going to be the guy that does take over Killian Hayes' minutes. I actually also really like the fact that he is an explosive guard. Like, his player comparison is John Morant, but I wouldn't really say John Morant. I'd say like more like Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, like those small explosive guards. I think an explosive guard right next to Cade would actually be a really interesting dynamic, because, of the way that Cade kind of plays the game, having an explosive guy like that next to him. I really wonder what it's going to look like. And unless Killian Hayes comes out and becomes like a breakout star this season. I don't really see him taking minutes away from Ivy at this point, or at least depending on how Ivy plays in the summer league, obviously. The Pistons were also a part of like one of the most confusing trades in the draft today, or just one of the most confusing trades I've ever read in a while, I would say. So what had actually happened was that Woj tweeted out that the Pistons were getting Jalen Duren from the Charlotte Hornets, and then Shams tweeted out the fact that the Hornets were actually trading Duren to the Knicks. And both of them were right. Or at least from what I gathered, they were both right. The Hornets did end up drafting Duren and then trading him to the Knicks, who then packaged him and Kemba Walker to the Pistons, so that way they could actually free up money to sign Jalen Brunson in free agency. But I mean, who really knows if that's actually going to happen? But also, what does this kind of mean for DeAndre Ayton? Because there was a big rumor that DeAndre Ayton wanted to team up with Cade in Detroit to kind of create like this new duo. But now that they have Duren and they have Isaiah Stewart, those are two guys that both play center. I mean, Isaiah Stewart could potentially play power forward, but I mean, he's mostly been a center, or at least I've only mostly seen him be played as a center. So, is DeAndre Ayton still going to head to Detroit, or is Phoenix going to offer him money, or is he going to go somewhere else? I don't really know. I feel like that's a little bit up in the air right now. If you guys who are Phoenix fans or Detroit fans kind of know what's going on, maybe you guys can explain in the comment section down below. But I am also disappointed because I did make a video yesterday talking about how the 7th pick was pretty much going to be traded for OG Anunoby, or that's what the Blazers were targeting. And well, they didn't end up trading the pick. They did draft Shaedon Sharpe, and I mean, I guess it's completely, it's fine with me. It's just that, like, you know, I know that Dame really liked him, but I think OG being on the Blazers would have been kind of cool. But at the same time, I don't know if it would have really, you know, helped Dame kind of want to stay there, or it's not going to help Dame at least win a championship. I know that for sure. The Thunder also kind of went kind of nuts during this draft, not only drafting Chet Holmgren, but they did end up trading a few of their picks. So I mean, they don't have a million draft picks anymore, and they ended up trading those picks to the Knicks so that they could get Ousmane Dieng, who is really good. He's projected to be like, you know, this mini Paul George, or at least I know that he has like a relationship with Paul George. So I think that's kind of cool that people are kind of projecting him to be kind of a Paul George, but we'll see how he turns out, because honestly, I don't know how he's going to get playing time in OKC with the amount of guys that they have there. Oh, and they also were able to draft Jalen Williams literally at number 12. So they literally had 3 picks within the top 12 picks right there, or within this draft. But I guess the bright side for the Knicks is, number 1, they did get to shed salary, and number 2, they do have a lot of draft capital for next year. Dyson Daniels ended up going to the Pels, which I think is a really solid option because he is like a 2-3, I guess. And I guess it's really nice to have a 2-3 because CJ McCollum is pretty much going to be running the 1, and then you have like guys like Herb Jones, who I think is really cool, but he's not really a shooting guard. He's more of like an Andre Iguodala defensive guy who can shoot here and there. He could hit the shot, but like, I'm not going to rely on him. Whereas Dyson Daniels, he was shooting hot at the end of his G League tenure. So I mean, I think he might end up being the starting 2, and I think him next to Zion would actually be really fun to watch. By the way, if you guys are actually enjoying the video so far, please consider hitting the like button and also hitting subscribe, as well as if you do hit the subscribe button, hitting the little bell for notifications so that way you don't miss out on more content from me. Liking the video also does kind of help it get out to more audiences, so I would really appreciate it if you guys did that. Anyways, the Spurs also did make me question a few of their picks. They had about like 3 in the first round, one of which I was completely okay with. The other 2 I questioned pretty heavily. They drafted Jeremy Sohan, who is projected to be the 6'9" power forward, so that means that Keldon Johnson no longer has to play power forward at 6'4" for the Spurs. But then they also added like 2 guards in addition to that 1 forward that they drafted in Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley. And if you look at the Spurs roster, they have DeJounte Murray, who I hope stays out of trade talks. They have Lonnie Walker, who I don't even know if he's going to be there next year. They have Devin Vassell. They have Josh Primo. They have so many guards, and adding 2 more guards isn't really going to help. And I mean, I don't know how they're going to get minutes. I think that's up to Pop to kind of figure out, but we'll just see where they go from there. I don't understand what their obsession with drafting so many guards is, but I mean, hey, if it gets you somewhere, it gets you somewhere. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. The Wizards ended up drafting Johnny Davis, who is pretty much Devin Booker, but with a defensive package attached to him. And well, I think they're going to try and move him to point guard because he's not a point guard. And what the Wizards need is a point guard. John Wall is gone. Spencer Dinwiddie is gone. Raul Neto was their starting point guard for like the last pretty much what it feels like 3-4 years at this point. And I just really hope that Johnny Davis can develop a good playmaking game, because if Bradley Beal is going to stay there, they do need a primary ball handler that's not him. And I do hope that if Bradley Beal does stay, that he can kind of be a little bit more off the ball and Johnny Davis can actually develop a playmaking game. If Bradley Beal ends up leaving, well, that's a little bit of a different story, because then he could probably develop his playmaking and actually like take all the amount of shots that he can, because I mean, I'm pretty sure that he's gonna take a lot of shots if Bradley Beal's not gonna be there. The Sixers also did end up trading Danny Green and the 23rd pick, who ended up being David Roddy, to the Grizzlies for DeAnthony Melton. Them getting DeAnthony Melton in the place of Danny Green is actually really helpful, because DeAnthony Melton was a pretty big contributor to that Grizzlies squad that did go to not the Western Conference Finals, the second round, semifinals of the Western Conference. What else is there? The Heat drafted Nikola Jovic, which I thought for some reason the Denver Nuggets were going to end up drafting him, and then they would have a Nikola Jovic and a Nikola Jokic, which would be really confusing. And the Warriors also selected Patrick Baldwin Jr., aka PBJ, or I guess PB&J is what I would like to call him. I actually really like that nickname a lot. Also, I don't understand why the Heat drafted Nikola Jovic, because he doesn't play any defense. He's pretty much going to be a Duncan Robinson 2.0. And like I said, I don't really know what else to talk about. Those were like my main takeaways from the draft so far. Obviously we're still in the second round as of me recording this, and yeah, I think what I'm gonna do for now is pretty much look at the summer league and really kind of decide who that one player that I didn't really talk about, who that's gonna be, and if that guy's gonna be like, that's gonna be the player that I really like, because it was Shea one year and it was Herb Jones last year. And as of the guys that I actually mentioned, I actually really like Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran, and Shaedon Sharpe, because those were the guys that I actually heard a lot about, and you know, they really interested me when I did like look into them a lot more. But anyways, like I said earlier, I'm no draft expert. This was pretty much my thoughts on the draft so far, or at least the first round, and plus I guess Jaden Hardy being picked in the second round by the Mavs. Thank you guys for watching. Obviously, start a conversation down below on anything that I missed, anything that I messed up on, because I'm not an expert at the draft. Maybe in a few months, usually after a few months I kind of am, but like when it just starts, or pretty much like what on the day that these guys are drafted, I'm not an extreme expert. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye guys.